You see my curve,
We are on the record. The time on the video monitor is 2:07 p.m. Here begins Volume 1, Video Number 1, in the deposition of Karl Model in the matter of DBT Yuma versus Yuma County Airport Authority in the Superior Court of the State of Arizona in and for the County of Yuma. Case number S1400 CV2010-1309. Today's date is August 9th, 2012. Our court reporter is Jerry Koash. My name is John Bogus, certified videographer representing Koash & Koash. This video deposition is taking place at 1340 Airport Road, Durango, Colorado, 81303. Counsel, please identify yourselves and state whom you represent.
My name is Darrell Williams. I represent the plaintiffs.
My name is Mark Lieberman. I represent the Yuma County Airport Authority.
And my name is Bill Cook. I'm representing Yuma County.
Would the court reporter please swear in the witness?
Sir, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
What is your full name, Mr. Model?
It's Karl Robert Moedl,
And where is your residence?
Yuma, Arizona.
How long have you lived there?
29 years.
Are you retired?
I'm retired.
What did you do before you retired?
I had a car dealership in Yuma, Arizona.
And what was the name of that car dealership?
It was called Karl Model Pontiac Buick GMC Truck, Inc.
You have something to do, or had something to do, with the Yuma County Airport Authority, did you not?
I was on the board.
How long?
I came on the board in 1993, and I left the board in 2010, the beginning of 2010.
Did you hold various positions while you were on the board?
I did.
What? And when, if you can remember?
I was on the board. It wasn't until probably in 2005 that I started sitting through the treasurer, secretary, kind of worked my way up, vice president, and then the president in 2009.
So you're president then for about 1 year?
That's correct.
When in 2009 did you become president?
I want to say roughly the beginning of the year.
And you left the board when in 2010?
I want to say at the end. I want to say it was at the end of 2010, but I was not the president in 2010.
Yeah. What were you in 2010?
Just a board member.
Why did you stop being the president?
I had some personal issues to deal with in 2010, and I could not make the commitment to be at all the board meetings in 2010.
I understand you've had cancer.
I do not have cancer. I had a scare at the end of 2009 and 2010 where I thought I had cancer or a tumor, and I went through surgery. It was benign. I was told to relax, stay out of the heat, and we're trying to see if it comes back. And that's why I'm up here right now.
That's good. I understand that was a tumor in your brain or something?
Well, I really don't want to talk a lot about the public records.
I'm not interested in your personal medical affairs.
But
let me finish the question here. I was told early in the year that you could not do a deposition because you were having some medical things done, and I'm wondering what it was that sort of prevented the deposition earlier.
Well, the deposition, let me back up. First of all, in the end of 2009 and the beginning of 2010, I was completely scared. And I don't know what was told to you, but the people that were around me, and Craig, the other board members, the vibe that probably came off of me was that I was completely scared. I had a medical issue and I needed to take time to deal with it. So how that correlated from, this is a small town. Rumors happen. But the first time you wanted to depose me, I was out of town or traveling or whatever. I told counsel that in May I could be I could be available.
In any event, there's nothing about your medical condition that impedes your memory or your recollection or your ability to answer questions here today.
No.
And see, I was informed that you had brain cancer, and I'm sure that's just a rumor.
It, again, like I said, I don't know what was told to you other than that, but I mean, I've told Mark, I mean, I was very scared, and I still am scared. You know, that's a hell of a thing to go through, and it got my attention real quick.
How old are you, Mr. Model?
I'm 53.
Why did you join the board in 1993?
I was asked to join the board.
By whom?
Dunbar Norton.
Well, why'd you do it?
You know, it's a small town. Everybody gets asked to be on a lot of different boards in town, and I had a general interest in the airport, just the fact of airplanes, aviation, I guess. I mean, I was honored to be asked.
Are you a pilot?
I'm not a pilot. I had once owned an airplane.
Oh, what'd you own?
I had a Bonanza 836.
If you're not a pilot, why did you own a Bonanza 836?
Well, I used it in my business. I had a pilot. He was a gentleman who was retired, and I used my employees. I mean, we go to the car auctions and stuff like that, so I didn't always go, and it was just helpful to have it go.
From 1993 to 2005, is it accurate to say then that you were just a board member?
That's correct.
What happened in 2005 that you started to take positions as an officer of the board?
I think just, well, let me back up a little bit. When I first went on the board, the members that went on the board were not necessarily voting members. There was just like an executive council or executive committee that voted. And so as we went further down the road, things changed, and it offered an opportunity for people to become to work the chairs. And I've just been there long enough to do that. You know, I didn't have to if I didn't want to, but I just wanted to.
You were a volunteer.
Yeah, I didn't get paid for any of this, so everybody on the board is just volunteers.
So in 2005, to return to my question, something gave you the impetus or the desire to become an officer of some sort. What was that?
I just thought that I was on the board long enough that I should, you know, go ahead and fulfill those obligations. I wanted to be the president at some point in time.
So you started out as what in 2005?
Well, I'm guessing it's either the secretary or treasurer or something like that.
When you say you're guessing, it means
Well, I'm assuming it was the secretary. I don't remember exactly which position I first took.
Now, do you keep any records of your activities on the board other than those that are kept by the Yuma County Airport Authority itself?
Do I keep any?
Yes.
Personally?
Yes.
No.
Did you at any time keep such records?
Not that I can remember, no.
Would it be accurate to say that pretty much what you did is you go to a board meeting, attend to the agenda items, and go home?
That's correct.
How long after your first position with the board, starting in 2005, was it before you had another position?
Like the next year.
And what was the next position you had?
I don't know, but in 2009 I ended up being the president.
So how many positions between 2005 and
It was like,
2009 did you have
three or
before you came
four,
president?
maybe.
Excuse me, one at a time.
I'm sorry. I'm assuming 3 or 4. I'm sorry.
He just really has this thing about keeping track of 5 or 6 people talking at once. I don't understand it. You would think that after a few years he would get this. So let me re-ask the question again. Between 2005 and 2009, when you became president of the Yuma County Airport Authority Board, how many positions did you have?
3 or 4.
Are there 3 or 4 positions?
I'm assuming there's. I think if it's been so long, the treasurer or the secretary, first vice president, president. There might be a treasurer in the middle of that. I don't remember.
Well, you said there were 3 or 4. I'm trying to think how many positions there are on the board.
Well, the secretary, the vice president, and the president. There's 3.
So it would be accurate then, between 2005 and 2009, you could have only held, well, 3 positions.
I could have, yes. I don't remember exactly.
Well, were you ever the treasurer?
I think I was, yes.
What does the treasurer do?
Just sits there and listens, and helps with not a whole lot. None of the positions really do a whole lot, other than maybe giving guidance at some point in time to the staff.
Did you use the word guidance intentionally there?
I mean, well, the authority itself, gives direction and guidance to the staff.
And when you say the authority itself, who do you mean?
The actual Yuma County, the board members that sit on the airport.
So when you were president of the board, to whom did you give direction as a president of the board?
I never really gave direction. The board itself, as a whole, gave direction. And guidance to the staff of the airport.
Has there ever been anyone on the board with expertise in the management and operation of an airport?
Well, we all bring different things to the airport. So whether it's background in business or background in management, we all bring something different. So, yes, at some point, yes. But I don't know if I'm answering your question or not.
Well, was your car dealership a corporation?
Yes.
Did you have board members?
Me. And probably my wife.
And your wife probably didn't vote.
I can't.
I think my wives always vote. Have you ever been on boards of any other company or organization?
In Yuma?
Anywhere.
I think I was in another small board in Yuma. Had to do with economic development. It was kind of like, not necessarily like a Rotary. I was in Rotary. I should take that back. I was in Rotary. But other than that, no.
See, when I think of a board of directors, I think of a group of men who know something about the business and are on the board because they know something about the business. Is that your definition of what you need for qualification to be on the Yuma County Airport Authority Board?
Well, when we were looking for members from the public, we always tried to find different facets of the local people to come onto the board, whether it was business or from the college or from the hospital or a CPA or an attorney or somebody from an engineering background, and so or people that owned airplanes. And so we worked very hard to make sure the board had that spectrum of people on it.
Were you there when Craig Williams was hired?
Yes, I was.
Why did you hire him?
He had a good resume. He knew what he was doing. He showed himself very well, and he's an intelligent person. And I didn't hire him. The board hired him.
Well, you voted, though.
We voted.
You were on the board when the vote was made to hire Mr. Williams, correct?
That's correct.
And the reasons you just gives me are the reasons, as you recall them, that the board hired Mr. Williams.
That's correct.
Was there any time while you were there on the board that you were ever dissatisfied with Mr. Williams?
No.
I'm going to show you, if I can, here a document I've placed on the screen a document that, with base number PL 00050. Do you recognize this document?
I recognize it as the lease, yes,
When you say
or one of the leases.
when you say the lease, what do you mean?
That's one of the leases that we had with Luxair.
How many leases were there?
I think there was 4, I think.
Why?
Why what?
Were there 4 leases?
Well, there was different pieces of property that they were using on the airport.
This particular lease, PL 00050, and I'm showing you the first page of the lease itself, PL 00054, is dated January 20, 2009. Do you recall when this lease was made?
No.
I'm going to show you page 29 of this lease on the left-hand side. This is PL 00078. Is that your signature?
Yes, it is.
Did you read this lease before you signed it?
No.
Why not?
You know, it was prepared by the staff. It was reviewed by our legal counsel, and it was just basically presented to me to sign.
Who asked you to sign it?
I would say that Craig asked me to sign it.
When you say
Or
Craig, you mean?
our authority. I was signing for the authority.
Well, it says that, Yuma County Airport Authority by Karl Model, President. So Craig Williams asked you to sign this?
Well, the board asked me to sign it. I mean, I was signing for the board to fulfill the lease.
It is accurate to say, is not, Mr. Model, that you were not president of the Yuma County Airport Authority, Inc., the corporation.
I was president. Yuma County Airport is a corporation.
Well, okay, but you know, corporations have members of the board of directors and typically a chairman of the board, and then they have corporate officers, which might be called president, etc. Is that how the Yuma County Airport Authority was organized?
Okay, well, some point in time, the president, the terminology president, became the chairman of the board. And it was either after I left it or whatever. But at that point, I was the president. Did that answer your question?
Yes, you're telling me, I suppose, that after you stopped being on the board, someone decided that what had previously been called the president would now be called the chairman of the board?
That's correct.
Do you know when that was made?
I do not remember.
Were you still on the board, just not an officer?
I would say yes. Towards the end, in 2010, I was not at every meeting. I was in and out of town, and so I can't tell you exactly when that happened.
Let me show you this document, if I may. This is CL02320. This is an email dated February 25, 2009. It's actually a little chain of emails here. Let me blow it up for a minute. Does this look at all familiar to you?
No.
In the email by Mr. Williams to Sean Elton, it says, in a separate committee meeting this morning, Mr. Model asked about present lease payment status came up. That's what it says. Do you have any recollection of a meeting on the morning of February 25 where you were asking about present lease payment status?
I don't remember exactly. I mean, I remember basic ideas. I don't remember exactly on the date of the 25th.
Let me put on the right side of the screen here calendar. So I've got a 2009 calendar up there, and the 25th is of February 2009, as you can see, is a Wednesday, and this talks about a committee meeting this morning. Was it typical to have committee meetings during the morning business hours of a weekday for you?
It may be not typical, but it did happen, depending on the schedules of other board members and stuff like that, and committee members.
So, as we're looking at the email on the left-hand side of the screen, CL02320, do you have any specific recollection of asking about present lease payment status?
Well, I know that there were problems with Luxair making their payments on the lease, and at some point in time right around here, the board members were asking a lot of questions, and so we decided to try to get as much information as possible and dissipate it out to the board members, so that we could answer their questions.
And when you said decimate it out,
well, I can't.
You meant disseminate it?
There you go. Thank you.
Oh, well, okay. I sometimes don't know words myself. So you have a specific recollection then that in February 2009, you're talking to board members about lease payment status with Luxair and disseminating or giving out that information to other board members?
It was either late February or into March, and we started to send out emails to board members giving them the current status of the Luxair situation in regards to their lease payments and whether they're current or not.
Well, in point of fact, if I look at this particular email here, I'm going to show you another one. Well, I'm going to show you the same one. I want you to look at CL02320, and I've highlighted the first paragraph of Craig Williams' email to Sean Elton and underlined the last sentence. They asked me to include that status as well in my weekly reports. What were the weekly reports that Mr. Craig Williams gave to the board members?
That would be the emails that I just mentioned.
Those emails were limited or not limited to any particular subject?
They were primarily directed at keeping the status of Luxair.
So if I look at the second sentence here of the highlighted paragraph on CL02320, it says, I informed those board members that Luxair was currently behind on their payments. I didn't have all the details. They asked me to include that status as well in my weekly reports. Is it accurate to say that before February 25, 2009, the board was not getting weekly reports from Mr. Williams?
I would say that was probably a fair statement, because I don't think either Luxair wasn't late at that time, or I don't think it happened at that early. No.
Do you recall if any of the Luxair entities were ever entirely current on all of their financial obligations to the airport?
Wait, say that again one more time, please.
Sure. It is
sorry.
true, is it not, that Luxair was never altogether current on its financial obligations to the airport?
No, they were current a couple times.
When? Now,
I want to say 2 or 3 times, and it was probably when they first started, and I want to say, I think sometime in the end of June or July they were current, and I don't remember. I remember they were current a couple times, 2 or 3 times.
You know, they never made the deposit. You know that.
I know that.
So they were never current, were they?
Well, I mean, in that regard, no.
Well, the deposit was a big deal, wasn't it?
It was, but at some point in time, I think we kind of moved it from here to over here because we wanted, we wanted them to succeed. We wanted a terminal. We wanted a building.
And Lux agreed to build the building.
That's correct.
And you were agreeing as a board that you could accept payments later on as long as you ultimately were going to get them, providing Lux was going to build its terminal. Is that
Objection
fair?
to form.
Tell me one more time. I'm sorry.
He'll read that question back.
And you were agreeing as a board that you would accept payments later on as long as you ultimately were going to get them, providing Lux was going to build this terminal. Is that fair?
I would say yes. I mean, at the very beginning, at the presentation from Luxair, the understanding was that there was not going to be any financing needed to produce this facility. And when it became apparent later on that they didn't have financing, or they were working on financing, that at the point in time when they got paid and secured their long-term financing, that we would be paid in whole.
It is accurate to say then that pending construction of the terminal, the airport authority was willing to work with Luxair in terms of the payments that it owed to the airport.
That's
Objection.
correct.
Objection to form. Give me
Okay,
just
I'm
one
sorry.
second to pose an objection, then you can answer.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You can answer now.
Well, I'll have him read the question back, and then you can answer again, so we have sort of a tidy little record here.
Is it accurate to say then that pending the construction of the terminal, the airport authority was willing to work with Luxair in terms of the payments that it owed to the airport? Answer, that's correct. Mr. Lieberman, object to the form.
We were willing to work with Luxair.
Yeah. I think Mr. Kirkus also had a form of objection. Did you not, Bill?
Yes, I joined in the objection.
Okay. Well, okay. Here on this email, which is CL02320, the first sentence of the second paragraph of Mr. Williams' email to Sean Elton says, I want you to know this, not as a hammer, but so you are aware that the board will be tracking this. Did the board, in fact, track this?
Yes, the board received this information.
And by tracking this, it was tracking how current Lux was on making payments to the airport, correct?
And the outstanding balance.
You know, there was a notice of default that was sent out in March, or that was prepared in March by the board's counsel that reinstated time of the essence. Did you know that?
I know a notice went out or was prepared.
Do you know what time of the essence means?
I do not.
Let me show you now this document. This is YCAA 000483, and the second page is YCAA 000484. This again is an email string. Do you recognize this email string, Mr. Model?
No, I do not.
Looking at the second page, YCAA 00484, it says here at the top, Tim Eisenman has completed the lot tie survey work for Yuma Airport and the Luxair construction project, and it's ready to submit the request to the airport. What was that? This lot tie in the survey?
The airport owned two pieces of property that were in they butted up to the actual airport property that's on the airport, if that makes sense. And those two parcels were designated as the area that Luxair was going to put their facility. And we needed to do a lot tie, and we spent money and time and energy to do that.
You needed to do the lot tie because?
Well, we needed to do a lot tie to put a building on it, number one, and the airport. I mean, we couldn't utilize the property until we did. I mean, we would have benefited from having it a lot tie, and so would Luxair.
The next thing highlighted here, let me do this. Look at this second paragraph right here. It says, the question came up, who should sign the request versus who is the property owner? Who was the property owner of this property, Mr. Model?
As far as I know, it belonged to the airport.
When you say it belonged to the airport, who do you mean? Or what entity do you mean?
Well, I mean, all property that's owned by the airport is owned by the Yuma County. They hold it.
So we're talking about property that, to your understanding, is owned by Yuma County itself, not the airport authority.
I would say that's correct.
Well, it then says here that the airport's determination, as is that of our council, is that YCAA President Karl Model should sign the lot tie request. Why you if the airport authority did not own the property?
Well, it belongs, all the property that we utilize is under a lease from the Yuma County. And again, that was just a function, that was a real estate function of just trying to do the lot tie to get it, do a lot tie. So we can put this, so Luxair could put a building on it.
Well, there was one other thing that needed to be done with regard to these properties before Luxair could put a building on it. What was that?
I don't know. Fill me in.
Do you remember anything about a sewer abandonment?
Oh, yeah. The lot tie came first. We did the lot tie, and there were some, a couple of months later, a couple of weeks later, I don't remember. I don't know if it came from an engineering study or whatever, but the city of Yuma said there's an old sewer line and needs to be abandoned, and so we need to take care of that.
And when you say we need to take care of that, that means somebody at the Yuma County Airport Authority needed to do something to get that sewer abandoned?
I probably had to sign the authorization to do it.
Let me show you another document, if I may. This happens to be YCAA 000482, and this particular document says here on it, Mr. Craig Williams to Andrew McGarvey. Do you know Andrew McGarvey?
No.
Do you know Sean Elton?
I probably have met him. I don't remember him. I mean, if he walked in here, I wouldn't, or walked on the street, I don't think I would recognize him.
Do you know Tim Berger?
I know Tim.
How do you know Tim?
Just from his length of time being on the airport, and his involvement with Luxair.
Do you know Gary Tim?
I do not.
Looking at this document, YCAA 000482, it says in this Mr. Williams' email to Andrew McGarvey, thank you very much for the draft sanitary sewer exchange agreement for Luxair. This sewer problem, this sewer abandonment, this sewer exchange agreement was so that Luxair could fulfill its lease obligations. Isn't that correct?
Well, this needed to be taken care of so they could put a building on it.
In fact, if this wasn't taken care of, then Luxair couldn't put a building on it, could they?
And we couldn't use the property either. I mean, it benefited everybody. It needed to be done.
But it was never done, was it, Mr. Model?
What wasn't done?
The sewer exchange agreement, the sewer abandonment.
I don't remember. I can't. I mean, I know the lot tie was done. And this has been how many years now? I can't remember. You know, come on.
You're probably like me, have trouble remembering what happened last week.
These emails you're showing me, I haven't seen. This is all stuff from the staff. You know, I don't see these emails.
Let me take this email off. What you told me, though, is that you don't remember the details of stuff that happened, well, almost 3 years ago, 2009.
I do, sure I do.
Well, what are your details do you remember about this sewer abandonment?
My recollection, we did the lot tie. It was done. It was approved in a board meeting. I signed it. It was taken care of. And after that, the sewer abandonment problem came up, or it was found by an engineer, and my recollection was that that it needed to be taken care of.
Well, my question to you is, was it taken care of?
Probably, I think that with the problems that we had with Luxair, that we stopped on it.
Why?
I don't think we want to spend any more money.
So the sewer abandonment, so that Luxair could build a terminal, was stopped when?
I don't remember.
Was it before or after Luxair had been evicted from the property?
I think it was after they were evicted. At least after, you know, the 20th of October.
Why does the 20th of October stick in your head?
Because that's a date when, up to that point, the board felt that that Luxair was still going to get their financing.
And so up until October 20, the board, although distressed with the fact that Lux wasn't current on its payments or building the terminal, the board was doing what it could to work with Lux so that it could be successful at the airport.
That's correct.
Makes me wonder what happened on October 20 that the board's opinion changed.
Well, are you asking me, or?
Yes.
Well, my understanding was that there was a phone call between Craig Williams and Mr. Berger on the 19th, and at that point it was discussed that Luxair was not going to get their permanent financing to build the building, and there was a discussion in regards to the fuel prices that Luxair was charging.
Mr. Model, you're an honest man, are you not?
I try to be.
You're under oath today, aren't you?
I am.
If I'd asked you about this October 19 phone call 5 months ago, would you have remembered the date October 19 or what happened on this phone call?
I remember the gist of the story, yes. I remember the problems that we were having, and I remember the issues of the fuel and the fact that the financing didn't go through. I remember that. Whether it was on the 19th or the morning of, or the afternoon of? Probably not.
So 5 months ago, 3 months ago, even 2 months ago, if I'd have asked you what the crucial date was of some phone call, you could not have told me, could you?
On the certain date? Probably not. I mean, I've been studying this so I could pass a final exam.
And the final exam is today at this deposition?
I guess it is.
And who's provided you stuff to study?
Counsel?
Yeah, I've gone over to refresh his recollection with respect to the record documents.
Well, have you been shown any documents? Because if you have, I get to see them.
Yeah, I mean, I've
You've seen all the documents that
Well, I
you've
get to see the ones specifically that you showed him.
We have specifically showed him the October 20th board minutes, and we have specifically showed him the September 4th notice of default letter, and we have specifically showed him the October 13th meeting minutes of the Yuma County Airport Authority.
Did you gain an understanding when you were being shown these documents? When were you shown these documents?
Just last couple days, yesterday, today, yesterday. I got some stuff sent to me in the mail on Sunday. Saturday, I think it was, wrecked my whole weekend. It's
Well,
like,
he's also, yeah, that reminds me, he's also seen your motion for summary judgment and our response.
I think you killed enough trees to plant a forest.
You have no idea how lawyers can effectively do that. So what you're telling me is that until you became familiar with the motion within the last week and looking at documents within the last week, you would have had no recollection about any dates at all, just sort of general notions of things weren't right. Is that correct?
I would be, I would not remember the dates, but I would remember the general gist of it. Keep in mind, I've been off the board now for 2 years or 2 years, so.
Sure, and what we're talking about was October of 2009, is it not?
That's correct.
Can you remember exactly what anybody said in October of 2009?
I can't even remember what I had for lunch yesterday. Okay, so, yeah, certain parts of it, yes. Certain, I mean, when you're on the board that long, and you have board members that have been on there also for a long time, everybody has their own idiosyncrasies, if I said it correctly, and some of them are more in tune than others. So you do kind of remember what people say.
Well, where were you on the spectrum, Mr. Model?
In regards to what?
Being in tune and remembering what people say.
I'm in tuned. Try to be.
Were you one of the most in tune people?
Probably not. No.
Who do you think was one of the most in tune people?
Waldo Israel was one. Very, very astute. Ron Rice was very astute. Ed Whitehead was very astute, asked a lot of questions. He owned an airplane, was very astute about GA-related items. That's what comes in my mind.
Do you remember how the board members typically sat in the room during board meetings?
You mean where each person sat in each chair?
Yes.
Vaguely, yes.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the court reporter take a blank sheet of paper and he's going to mark it as an exhibit. I will later put a bits number on this document, and then I'm going to give you a pencil and have you draw the room and put where everybody sat in it to your recollection on the, let's pick the October 13, 2009 board meeting. So we'll take a break, let him mark it, and I'll give you a pencil.
We are off the record. The time on the video monitor is 2:52 p.m. We are on the record. The time on the video monitor is 2:52 p.m.
Okay, now just, we're about to mark this sheet of paper, and I'm going to give you a pen. as soon as he gets it marked. He's now handed you that blank sheet of paper. I'm handing you a pen. And I want you, as best you can to your recollection, draw the room, where the table was, where the chairs were, where people sat, and label it.
My spelling's terrible.
Well, spelling doesn't count here, just so that it's close enough.
Keep in mind, they weren't these chairs were not assigned. So people moved around a little bit all the time.
Well, I'm thinking specifically of the October 13, 2009 meeting.
Carl, are you there?
Yeah, we're all here. We're all here. He's still drawing.
All right.
That's probably about as best I can remember.
Okay, may I just take that from you and look at it?
You probably need me to decipher my scribble.
No, I need you to do something else that is on here.
Okay.
There were also spectators at this meeting, were there not? Did you write spectators in that area where they were? Okay, you've written public there, correct?
And sometimes people would sit over here too. There was over too many people.
Over here meaning,
In this corner of the room.
well, kind of put
Overflow.
overflow on there then. Do you remember Mr. Berger was present at this meeting?
On what meeting? What day?
October 13, 2009.
Yes.
Where was he sitting?
Exactly, I cannot remember, but somewhere here in the public, in front of me. You read that?
I think I can read it well enough.
Have you been in that room?
I have been in the room.
Okay, then you have an idea what I drew.
You haven't put Craig Williams on here, have you?
In the corner there.
Oh, I see. That's just where it says Craig?
Yeah.
Would you put Craig Williams on there? Was there also a little Craig?
A little Craig?
Yes.
Not that I know of. There's a junior.
And what was his last name?
Oh gosh. Give me a minute, I'll think about it.
Well, okay. If you think of Craig Jr.'s name at any time.
Not Craig Jr.
There's Junior?
Junior, just Junior, not Craig Jr.
Just Junior. Okay. I'm going to show you the minutes of this meeting on October 13th. You've recently reviewed these, correct?
Yes.
So, placing on the screen CL00317. This looks familiar to you because you looked at it yesterday and today.
That's correct.
Prior to yesterday and today, had you looked at these minutes?
Saturday maybe.
So they were in the package that was mailed up to you.
That's correct.
The second page of these has this consent agenda area here at the bottom. And it says, discussion about the YCAA president, that's Yuma County Airport Authority president, is it not?
That's correct.
To sign all necessary documents concerning the sewer abandonment. That's what we've been talking about, correct?
Yes.
So as of October 13, it is accurate to say, is it not, Mr. Model, that the airport authority was okay with going ahead with Luxair as a tenant at the airport and working with them so they could comply with their lease and build the tenancy.
Yes.
And it says the purpose here is so Luxair can commence construction. You knew as a board member, did you not, that if this sewer abandonment did not have, Luxair couldn't build the terminal?
Yes.
Let me show you the last page of these minutes. This is page 8. I put it on the left-hand side of the screen. This is CL000, excuse me. I'm going to show you the last page of these minutes. I've put it on the left side of the screen, CL00324. And I've boxed the second to the last paragraph where it says Mr. Gresser made a motion. Do you remember what Mr. Gresser said when he made that motion?
To authorize me to sign the sewer abatement line or whatever.
Before you read these minutes either Saturday or yesterday or whenever you first read them within the last 2 weeks, did you remember that Mr. Gresser had made this motion?
No.
And as you sit here today, can you remember with any precision what it was that Mr. Gresser said when he made the motion?
Well, there it is right there. Is that what you're asking me?
Well, I don't believe these minutes say what Mr. Gresser said. They say what he did. My question is, do you remember the words that came out of Mr. Gresser's mouth when he made this motion?
No. I mean, I remember him making a motion. I mean, this has jarred my memory.
Sure.
But I remember him making a motion to authorize the president to do yada, yada, yada.
And so you don't remember, though, the words that he used to have the president do yada, yada, yada.
It was basically the same thing. I mean, it was basically that. It was asking for, making a motion to have the president sign the necessary documentation to handle the sewer line.
Other than that general statement of what happened, can you remember what Mr. Gresser said? Can you put it in quote marks and say he said this?
No.
That's because it's almost 3 years ago.
That's correct. I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday.
Well, can you remember anything that Mr. Gresser didn't say when he made his motion?
No.
Did Mr. Gresser comment on the fact that Luxair was still behind on their financial obligations to the airport?
No.
Could he have commented on that?
Well, he wouldn't be the one that would make that comment.
Well, why not? He was on the board, wasn't he?
That's correct.
Well, why wouldn't he say, well, I'm going to make this motion even though Lux is behind on their rent? I mean, can you sit here and say he didn't say that? Or are you just sitting here saying, I don't think he would have said that?
You know, most of the time, Mr. Williams, when we talked about Luxair dollar amounts, they were not held in public. It was not done in public. We did not want to embarrass anybody. We wanted a terminal. We wanted them, you know, the public wanted a nice GA terminal. And we tried to do whatever we possibly could to get that handled. And so this is just a mere real estate function that the airport needed to take care of for not only ourselves but also for Luxair.
Well, actually, this was just for Luxair because after Luxair was evicted, you abandoned it, didn't you?
I think we stopped because we didn't want to put any more money in it.
Okay, now, you didn't answer my question.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Model, and so I'm going to have the court reporter read back the question that you didn't answer, which was the second to the last question about what you remember Mr. Gressler not saying, or what he could have said. So I'll have the court reporter read that back.
Had to do with Mr. Gresser.
Yeah.
Did Mr. Gresser comment on the fact that Luxair was still behind on their financial obligations to the airport?
And you can say, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
So it would be speculation on your part to say whether Mr. Gressler did or did not say something about Luxair's financial status at the time. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Would it likewise be speculation on your part to say what anybody else said about Luxair's financial obligations at this October 13 board meeting?
Not necessarily, no.
Not necessarily no means you must have some specific reaction then about somebody saying something specific.
I do.
Who?
Ron Rice.
Okay. I've got your declaration.
Okay.
Do you remember signing it?
I do.
Who prepared that for you?
Council.
How'd you get it?
It came to, I think it was mailed to me.
I've placed on the screen here KM 00001. Do you recognize this?
Yeah, I mean, there's more to it, but
I'll show you the next page, 2, which is KM 00002. Do you recognize that?
it's a great page.
That wasn't my question. My question was whether you recognize.
I recognize this, yes.
KM 00002 you recognize.
That's correct.
It looks like a, well, as you put it, a great page. Why does it look like this?
It's empty. It's blank.
Why?
I have no idea.
Did you get it this way?
Yes.
So you got KM 00001 and KM 00002 at the same time.
Yes.
Did it come to you in an email?
It came to me in an email, and it also came to me in the mail. Or FedEx, I think it was.
Well, did it come with the second page, KM 00002, blank like this?
Yes.
Did you pick up the phone and talk to anybody about this blank page?
No.
Why not?
Because there's another page that comes with it.
Well, look at this page. KM 00003. What's that?
That's the my deposition or whatever. That's what I signed.
When you got it, did it look like this?
Yes.
Did you prepare any portion of this document, KM 00003?
You mean in regards to typing it out or something?
Yes.
No.
Did you tell anybody what to type?
Well, I was asked questions, and that's what I said.
Who asked you questions?
Counsel.
And so what we have here on KM 00003 is an exact quote then, Mr. Model, of what you told counsel?
So let me just interject an objection as to form, and I think also any communications between Mr. Model and the authorities' lawyers are privileged. So, Karl, I'm going to instruct you not to answer this particular question because I think it's inquiring as to privileged matters.
You know, that is a dangerous objection to make.
Thank you.
And so you're instructing the witness not to answer that question.
I think you can ask the question a different way.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question this way then, Mr. Model. Would it be accurate for me to say, looking at paragraph 1 of this declaration on KM 00003, that the following words came out of your mouth? I was on the board of directors of the Yuma County Airport Authority, parentheses, quote, YCAA, end quote, parentheses, at all times relevant to this case.
Yes.
When is the last time in your life you've said relevant to this case?
Oh. I mean, this was a prepared statement. I mean, counsel did this for me from a phone conversation or phone interview, and I got it, and I signed it.
Did you make any changes?
No.
What you got from counsel, you signed.
Yes.
Well, let's look at the second sentence of the first paragraph on KM 00003. It says, I am over the age of 18 and make this affidavit based on my personal knowledge. Have you ever in your life before this ever said anything like that?
No.
How about this one? I am authorized to make this affidavit on behalf of YCAA. Have you ever in your life before this declaration said anything like that?
No.
What gave you the thought that you, no longer a member of the board, was authorized to make this on behalf of the board?
Well, I was going through documentation that was given to me, minutes, I guess it was, and I remember seeing an entry from Ron Rice, and I remember the question. I remember hearing it.
Is that the end of your answer?
I don't know if I answered your question or not.
You didn't. My question was, what gave you the idea that on July 23, 2012, when you hadn't been on the board for 2 years, that you were authorized to do something on behalf of the board?
Objection form.
Ask it to me one more time. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking at the last sentence of paragraph 1 of KM 00003. It says, I am authorized to make this affidavit on behalf of YCAA. Why did you think you were authorized to make this affidavit on behalf of YCAA when you put your name to this paper?
Because I was on the board when this meeting happened.
Who authorized you to sign this on July 23, 2012?
I'm authorizing myself to respond to those questions. Or, not respond to the question, but I'm authorizing that I understand what it says and I believe it.
Oh, so what you meant to say when you said, I am authorized to make this is, I remember, so I think I'll go ahead and do it. Not that anyone gave you authorization to do it. Is that correct?
I was the president of that board when this transpired.
I guess I'm having trouble with the word authorized. Do you know what that means, authorized?
Do I understand the word authorized?
Yes. Do you know what it means? Because you used the word, didn't you?
I thought I had the authorization.
Okay. Who endowed you with the authority on July 23, 2012 to do this?
Well, I guess I'm having a problem understanding because I was on the board as the president when this happened. You're not asking what happened on July 23rd, 2012. You're asking me something that happened back in October 2009.
I know, but this says, I am authorized. You intended that to be present tense as of July 23, didn't you?
I believe I had the authorization to sign this.
And you think they got that authorization from yourself?
That I was on the board as the president during this meeting in October 2009.
So you can still speak on behalf of the board today. Is that what you're telling me?
In regards to meetings that are today? No.
How about with regard to meetings that happened on October 13, 2009? Do you speak for the board as you sit here today?
I speak for myself.
So you were speaking for yourself when you signed this affidavit, not for the board.
That's correct.
I want to look at paragraph 3 now of this. It says, at the board of directors meetings, Ron Rice asked, quote, where are we, i.e. YCAA, with Lux Air, period, end quote. How do you know he used those words, end quote, like that?
I remember the terminology, where are we with Lux Air? Is that what you're asking me?
Is that indeed, as you sit here today, can you testify that that's an exact quote of Mr. Rice?
As far as I can remember, yes. Personally, that I can remember, yes.
Let me show you some notes that were taken on October 13th. I'm looking at YCAA 006216, and I just have highlighted the part where it says Rice dash, where are we on Lux Air? And I'm comparing that to your paragraph 3 of your affidavit. Let me start over again. I got to make sure that I've done all these numbers correctly. On the left hand of the screen, there is a page of notes that were taken on October 13, 2009 by the Secretary. This is YCAA 006216, and I've highlighted the box where Mr. Rice, and highlighted and put in a box Mr. Rice's comment, where are we on Lux Air? Is that a quote?
That's what somebody else thought he said. Whoever's taking the notes, I think it was, I don't remember who it was, somebody from the staff took these notes.
Well, it's not a quote, is it? You know it's not a quote, don't you?
Well, the gist of the question is there.
My question is not whether the gist is there. My question is whether it's a quote. And you know what is there by Mr. Rice's name on YCAA 006216 is not a quote. You know that as you sit here today, don't you?
Objection to form.
So ask the question again.
Sure. Look at YCAA 006216. The second to the last line item says Rice dash, where are we on Lux Air question mark. You know that that is not a quote of what Mr. Rice said, don't you?
Objection to form.
I can't, it's what somebody heard and wrote it down. I remember the question. So whether there's an A or a S or whatever, I mean, I don't know. I mean, but that, I remember the question. I remember Ron asking that question. I personally remember that. I remember him sitting, where he was sitting, and how he was sitting when he asked it.
My question is, you know that what's on the minutes there, YCAA 006216, is not a quote. You know that. It's not a quote.
Objection to form.
Don't you?
Objection to form.
I'm not asking if it's the gist. I'm saying you know it is not a quote.
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Well, okay,
I think
then,
it is.
Okay, then why in your affidavit, as you call it, on KM 00003, do you put in quote marks something else that's not the same as on YCAA 006216?
Well, that could be what I said. Where are we with Lux Air? I'm reverberating what I heard. That's probably not the right English, but that's what I remember saying. That's what I heard, and that's what I said. That's my quotes.
So, it could be that we've got two quotes here, and one of them's right and one of them's wrong, because they both can't be right, can they?
Well, that's what I heard, and that's what I signed. I mean, I think that's what I heard.
I think that's good of you to say that. And notwithstanding the fact this was 3 years ago, you are confident enough that those were the exact words that you would put that in a quote. Is that what you're telling me? Or are you trying to reflect that it's not an exact quote, it's just a gist?
That's what I think I heard. I remember that.
So what you're saying here on your statement, KM 00003, is you're saying that is an exact quote.
As far as I can remember, yes. I mean, Ron had a he asked questions like that.
Earlier in this deposition, I asked you if you remembered whether someone didn't say something. And you said, how can I remember that from 3 or 4 years ago? You remember our little interchange?
Yes.
Well, here in paragraph 5 of your statement, KM 00003, you say you remember that somebody didn't say something. How is it that you can remember that someone didn't say something 3 years ago?
Objection to form.
Because the response that Craig gave, this was at the end of the meeting. There's a lot of commotion going on at the end of the meetings. People want to go home. And we serve food and drinks and cookies and all that nice stuff. People are up and moving and around. And the response that Craig gave to Ron Rice what I heard was something so quick and so in line with what was the fact that Luxair was late and behind that it didn't register. It was okay. That was it. They're still behind.
Okay, they're still behind. They're late, but we're working with them.
But if he would have said, whatever this is, the finances are A-okay or they're okay and things have been worked out, I would have gone like, what? And the light bulb would have gone off, and I would have been like, that would have completely caught my attention.
So you're just saying that something casual was said by Mr. Williams to the effect that, well, we know they're behind, we're still working with them, and just sort of general nothing.
He just said they're behind.
Okay, he said they're behind.
They're still behind. That was it. That was the end of the discussion.
Okay.
It was a real quick question and a response.
Well, if they were behind, Mr. Model, everyone at the board knew they were still behind at that board, didn't they?
I can't answer that.
Well, you knew they were behind.
I knew they were behind.
Why did you vote to go forward with the sewer abandonment for Luxair, even though you knew they were behind, when Mr. Rice is asking where they are, and he says, well, they're behind. So why are you voting for it?
Because we are still led to believe at that point that they're going to get their permanent financing. I mean, we were told that they're going to get their permanent financing. The last thing we want to do is swallow the losses that we had, evict somebody off the airport, and go through all this fun and games that we have from today.
Sure, and so on October 13 here, you're still working then with Mr. Berger and Luxair so that they can have an FBO, build the thing, and go forward with their leases.
That's correct.
Let me show you something, if I may, here. This is Mr. Berger's affidavit. Have you seen Mr. Berger's affidavit?
I think I have.
Did Mr. Berger lie in his affidavit?
I'm not saying he's lying.
You read the whole affidavit carefully, did you not?
I read through it. I had a lot of reading this weekend.
And why did you read his affidavit through carefully?
Why didn't I?
Why did you?
Why did I?
Yes.
I didn't say I did. I said I read through it. I didn't say I read through it carefully, but I read through it.
Well, as you read through it, there wasn't anything you could think about in it as you read it that you said, yeah, that's a lie. Good, was there?
I'm not saying he's a liar. I just heard what I'd heard. I don't know what he heard.
What are you talking about? I'm talking about his whole declaration here. I'm not talking about anything in particular.
Okay.
My question is, was there anything in his declaration that you thought, oh, that's not true?
Yeah, his statement that everything was okay and we're got a plan to work through it, and I mean whatever it says there.
Let me show you exactly what it says. I'll put on the screen here, TB 00005, and I'm going to blow up the first paragraph here for you so it's easy for you to read. And it says, during the course of the meeting, Ron Rice asked Craig Wilsham where the airport was financially with Luxair. You agree that happened, do you not?
Yes.
And then Mr. Berger says Craig Williams responded to Mr. Rice saying that he, Craig Williams, had been really busy, but as far as he were, everything was all right, it had been worked out. You say that's a lie, or you just...
I did not hear that.
You didn't hear that, but it could have happened.
I did not hear that.
Well, could it have happened or not? Can you sit here and say, no, that didn't happen, Mr. Berger's got to be lying?
I did not hear that. That's all I'm saying. I did not hear that.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but can you tell me as you sit here that there's no way Mr. Williams could have said something like that? Or are you just simply saying, I don't remember that he said that? What are you doing?
Craig would not have said that.
Well, he would not have said that. That's different than, could he have said it and you just didn't hear it?
No, because the Luxair was behind. And so making a statement like that would have been false.
Did you know that Mr. Berger told Mr. Williams on October 19 that Luxair would pay the airport completely current by November 1?
No.
Now, there was a board meeting on October 20, wasn't there?
There was not a board meeting.
Well, there was a meeting of some sort with some people.
Committee meetings, executive committee.
The executive committee can't authorize any action by the board, can it?
Sorry, excuse me?
The executive committee cannot authorize any action by the board, can it?
It can. Executive committee can.
So it doesn't need a board vote to do it?
Nope.
And that's the board meeting where this executive committee authorized Mr. Williams to evict Luxair.
On the 20th. That's
Yes.
what you're asking me?
Yes.
Yes.
Why did the board decide to do that in secret without calling Mr. Berger or someone at Lux and say, we're going to evict you unless you bring us current?
Objection to form.
Ask the question one more time, please.
I'll have you read it back.
Why did the board decide to do that in secret without calling Mr. Berger or someone at Luxair and saying, we're going to evict you unless you bring us current?
No, the meeting was not in secret.
I'm going to have the question read one more time, and I want you to answer my question.
Why did the board decide to do that in secret without calling Mr. Berger or someone at Lux and saying, we're going to evict you unless you bring us current?
So you're asking me why we didn't call him? Is that the question?
Well, I'm asking you why it was done in secret rather than calling him.
Objection to form.
I mean, the meeting was not in secret.
I didn't ask if the meeting was secret. I'm asking why the airport thereafter, Mr. Williams in particular and Mr. Benish, proceeded in secret without telling Mr. Berger or anyone else at Luxair that they were working to throw him out.
Objection to form.
I think we were done. And after the phone call that we were informed about on the 19th, that the last straw was broken, and that we made a decision to move forward. Does that answer your question?
If that's your answer,
It
is your answer,
yeah,
then it answers it.
okay.
And you know, of course, that Mr. Williams had Mr. Benish then prepare a non-disclosure agreement with CareFlight to have them take over Luxair's operation.
Well,
Do you know that or not?
Objection to form.
I mean, I found out about it later, yes. I knew. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Hey, when you say you found out about it later, yes. You found out about it later when?
Well, it could have been on the 20th. The situation was that we were very worried that Luxair was going to abandon or leave us hanging in the middle of the night, and then we need to be able to be in a situation to take or refuel commercial airlines, and so I think Craig was putting together a plan to handle that, and but again, it wasn't until after we found out that the permanent financing was not going to happen, and we got spooked with the changes in the fuel prices. by lowering him a lot.
Now, I heard Mr. Williams testify. In fact, I saw his declaration where he said the fuel prices at Luxair went down some amount per gallon. Do you know what that was?
50 cents a gallon is what I remember.
Do you know that it's a flat-out provable lie that that happened?
I was told that that it went down.
You were told by Mr. Williams?
That's correct.
Did you know it's a lie and provable right now, today?
Objection to form.
I don't know.
Well, do you have any basis other than Mr. Williams's statement that fuel prices went down?
I think there's a documentation that shows that we tracked it. We track it. The airport tracks it.
I know the airport tracks it, and I just served on the Airport Authorities Council thousands of pages of documents with a request for admission that show the price didn't vary a penny from the middle of summer 2009 up until the date of the eviction. Have you seen those documents?
No.
Okay, what documents are you talking about that show that there was some reduction in price by some price per gallon?
I don't have it. I have not seen it in front of me. I don't have it in my packet. But at that meeting in the 19th or the 20th, excuse me, that the prices of fuel went down.
And you're telling me that Mr. Williams produced some sort of document that showed the prices went down?
At that meeting, I don't know if there was a document at that meeting, but I thought that there was a document because the airport tracks that.
How does the airport track it? Because I will tell you, it's a flat-out prevarication. It is a lie and demonstrably so. So I want to see the document that you say the airport authority has that show prices dropped by some amount per gallon. I want you to describe it to me. What is it?
I don't have the document. I don't have it.
Well, what is it? What is it? Where's it kept? What's it look like?
Just a sheet, and it's got the date and the time and the gallons sold and the pricing, and it's tracked. And we track it for fuel flowage fees, and we also track it because a lot of the general aviation community is always excited about what is charged on the airport for fuel, and we track it against other airports, bigger, smaller, like size, to show that everybody's paying what they're paying.
Do you have kids?
I do. They keep me busy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kids are wonderful. I also have kids. I had an interesting thing happen with all of my children when they were young. I'd catch them doing something, and they'd make up a little lie to justify it. You ever had that happen to you, one of your kids?
Sure.
And it's just transparent. They're making a story up, isn't it?
Yes.
Did it ever occur to you that Craig Williams is making this story up to justify what he was doing like a little kid?
No, it did not.
Okay. So, I want you to give me the very words I should use when I send a request for production of documents to this man sitting across here, Mr. Lieberman, so that I can get my hands on this document you say exists that shows there was a reduction in fuel prices. Just give me the words, I'll write it down.
Why don't I just tell you?
Can I go to the bathroom?
No, first I want you to
Okay.
give me the words that are going to describe this document.
Ask me, please send me the forward in my email that I'm asking to show the reduction in fuel prices in and around October 19th, 2009.
And when you say my email, what do you mean by that, my email?
Your email to him,
Okay,
council to council.
so, and have you seen this document recently?
No.
We're going to take a break so you can go to the bathroom.
And more water.
And more water.
We are off the record. The time on the video monitor is 3:37.
I'll be right back.
We are on the record. The time on the video monitor is 3:42 p.m.
I have back up on the screen here, Mr. Moedl, KM00003. And down in the lower left-hand corner of this document, there are a few numbers, 4844-0406-5040.1. Do you have any idea what those are?
No.
Before the break, we were talking that Mr. Williams told the people at the executive committee meeting on October 20 that before the break, we were talking about the statements that Mr. Williams said at the executive committee meeting on October 20 about the price of gas going down. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Now, I happen to have the minutes of that meeting. You've seen them too, haven't you?
Yes.
There's not one mention of that in those minutes, is there?
Well, do you have it and put it in front of me?
Sure. I put up on here YCAA 000939, and I'll put up page 2. You can read that, YCAA 00940. When you get through reading all of these 2 pages, there's another page. I'll put it up as soon as you tell me to.
We'll put up the other page too, please.
You can't. You can only do.
I can only do 2 at a time.
Okay.
So you got to read these 2.
Am I familiar with these? Yes. I've seen these.
And you're familiar with these because you only recently read these, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Looking at YCAA 000939, do you remember discussing the first option? We can continue to apply pressure to Luxair to meet their financial obligation through a combination of threats and incentives. Do you remember that discussion?
Yes.
That's sort of what you've been doing since really the first of 2009, is it not?
Yes. And it worked to a point.
Well, why, if you're concerned about a sudden reduction in fuel prices, are you still considering whether that's an option?
Well, it's still an option. I mean, it's an option. You might not like the option, but it's an option.
But I thought you told me a minute ago you were afraid that they were just selling out and moving off the airport.
I understand that, but that still is an option. It might be a shitty option, or a bad option, excuse my French, but it's still an option.
I think it's chité in
Okay,
French.
I don't speak French, so I apologize.
That's all right. Did you know that Luxair had 32,000 gallons of fuel in the ground on the date of the eviction?
I did not know that they had, I knew they had fuel. I didn't know exact gallons.
Well, okay. So you'll agree with me that in terms of option 1 there's no discussion about any reduction in price, correct?
Yes.
Well, what was the reduction in price that had everybody so terrified?
My understanding was 50 cents a gallon.
And you got that from Mr. Craig Williams?
That's correct.
And you don't know how he got that?
From a report that was probably generated by staff. That tracks that. Go ahead.
A few minutes ago, while we were off the record, I was just informed by Mr. Mark Lieberman that there's a daily log that was kept by Gladys Wiggins that says something like that. Do you know of any such daily log?
I know that they track it, but I don't know the mechanisms, and I mean, that's not my job. I mean, I don't get paid to do that, so.
He just gave you a bite and you swallowed it whole when he said 50 cents a gallon price reduction.
I had no reason to believe otherwise.
Sure.
Okay,
I
so.
think that's fair. Okay, option 2 here says we can terminate the lease and invite Mr. Close to come back. Did you know Mr. Close used to own this FBO that we're in here in
I did.
Durango?
Mm-hmm. I don't know him personally, but I knew that. Heard that.
But anyway, Then there's a whole bunch of considerations for option 1 that were discussed. Do you remember these discussions about considering option 1? Luxair's current lease is 4 separate leases. The old Southern Western leases expire. The Northwest maintenance hangar.
And that's just background information.
You remember that background information?
I remember talking about it, sure.
You remember talking about the rent?
Yes.
Well, there's nowhere on these 2 pages, YCAA000939 or YCAA000940, where there's any discussion about the sky falling because the price has gone down 50 cents a gallon on fuel, is there?
It's not on those pages.
Well, let me show you the last page, which is YCAA000941. It's not on that page either, is it?
No.
Have you ever read the whole page?
I don't see it on there. Unless I'm missing it.
Well, I will tell you, I've read it carefully myself, and I don't think it's there. So my question to you, if something is so crucial and important to the decision to throw them off without any notice and do it secretly, entering into a non-disclosure agreement with one of their competitors, wouldn't you think it'd be in the minutes?
Objection to form. Go ahead, answer.
You know, Mr. Williams, by this point in time, the board and the feeling of the board was that we were being strung along, and to the point of finding out at the last moment that Luxair is not going to get their permanent financing was like, that's it, we're done. We're not going to get our money, we're not going to get paid, and we're not going to get a building. And on top of that was the fuel issue. And the fuel issue generated the fact that we might be dealing with refueling airplanes or commercial airlines at any time. So, you know, the board was done. It was finished. And these are the options that was presented to us on which road to take.
So, why didn't the board, when it was finished, say, well, give them a notice if they don't pay us completely current here by 3 days or the end of the month, we are going to terminate them? Why didn't you do that? Something like that.
Say that again.
Sure. You've kind of let Luxair go along for weeks and weeks and weeks being behind on their rent and other obligations to the airport, haven't you?
Yes.
And there's something that happened at this October 20 meeting that says, okay, that's it, we're done. Correct?
Yes.
So why didn't you say to someone at Luxair, you know what, we're done. Unless you bring us current and comply with the lease, we're going to terminate.
We already gave them notice. They had a letter. We already talked about that.
But that's that September 4 letter, and you let them not comply with that for almost 2 months, didn't you?
September 4 letter?
Yes.
They still had a road plan to make it current, and we were still being told or being led to believe that they're going to get their secured financing, or permanent financing to build a building.
Well, there's nothing in that September 4 letter about permanent financing, is there? It's just about you haven't paid the rent.
The September 4th letter just says, this is it, we're done. This is the road plan back to health. Pay this and we're good. If you're not, there's your notice.
But then they didn't pay that, they didn't follow it, and you kept working with them all through October, didn't you?
But we had the right to make that. We had that ability. We didn't have to pull the trigger at any moment. And
someone told you that you didn't have to do that? I mean, did you as a legal matter know that, or did someone tell you that?
Wait, say that again.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it says there in that letter, it says, we can do it.
Well, do you know what the law is on this subject?
No. I'm not a lawyer.
So would it be accurate to say that you were relying upon the legal advice that you were getting from the board's lawyer when you decided to pull the trigger after October 20 without any notice?
They had notice. Luxair had notice.
Listen to my question. Would it be accurate to say that when you decided to pull the trigger on October 20 without giving them any notice that you had decided on October 20 to pull the trigger, I'm to start this question over. Would it be accurate to say that on October 20, when you made the decision to throw Lux off the airport, without giving them any further notice that you were going to do that, you were relying upon any sort of legal opinion to do that?
I think we had the authorization in the letter, on the September 4th letter.
And that's the legal conclusion that you reached yourself?
Well, it's
Objection to form.
I mean, it states that in the letter. I'm assuming that's legally correct.
So did you know?
Did I know what?
Whether that was legally correct, that you could do that?
I'm assuming it's legally correct because it was, my attorney, our attorney, not my attorney, the airport authority's attorney was in the process. He helped produce that or looked over it or whatever. I don't know. I was in the middle of that. But that letter states it out pretty easy. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's pretty right there. You don't pay.
Let me show you a couple more documents here. This is YCAA 006218 and YCAA 006219. You ever seen these before?
Yes.
When did you see these last?
Well, I mean, I remember them. I mean, I just saw them in my packet. Okay?
This is the packet that was mailed to you?
Saturday. They wrecked my weekend.
Let me show you on YCAA 006218. There is a statement here that says, Wayne, 10-day notice needs to be issued. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
You have to answer verbally.
I'm
Can't
sorry.
go, uh-huh.
I'm sorry. Yes, I see what you highlighted here.
So, that's Wayne Benish, isn't it?
That's correct.
Did he tell you that a 10-day notice needs to be issued?
I think he was referring to it had already been issued.
Well, it doesn't say that, does it? It says it needs to be issued.
Well, I think he's responding to a question, and...
Well, he does go on the next sentence, says, so notice has already been given. Do you see that?
Yes, I see it.
Well...
The yellow helps quite a bit.
Did it ever occur to you that maybe Mr. Wayne Benish was committing malpractice by saying these things?
No. Come on.
No, I'm serious. I think the man committed malpractice and ought to be sued. That's my opinion.
It's like going and getting your teeth cleaned and knowing that hopefully the dentist knows what he's doing. Come on.
Yeah, but if the dentist knocks your teeth out, you sue him, don't you?
I assumed that he was, we were making decisions based on his input and
you were relying upon him, were you not, to give you good, solid legal advice as to whether or not a 10-day notice needs to be issued.
Sure, yes.
If he had told you, we can't do this until we give him another notice, then you'd have given him another notice, wouldn't you?
Probably.
What do you mean probably?
Yes,
You would have.
yes.
Did you know that Mr. Benish and Mr. Williams have both testified in this case that if Luxair walked in with a check at any time before they were thrown out on October 23, the airport would have been obligated to take it?
I think we talked about that. I remember saying that if they issue a payment to bring us in full, pay us in full, we'll take it. Because we didn't want to go through eviction. We wanted them to build a building.
So, since you were willing to take the money anyway if they brought it in, why didn't someone pick up the phone and say, we're going to throw you out unless you bring the money to bring us current?
The only my response to that is, again, is that we felt that the August 4th letter,
September 4th.
September 4th letter was given. It gave a roadmap back to how to get us the airport current. And in there it says, if you don't, this is what's going to happen. And we went along. We were going along through October. At the October 13th meeting, all of us were feeling, even though they're behind, we're still feeling that they still have not received their permanent financing for the construction of the terminal, as well as out of that permanent financing, they were going to make the airport whole. And
But
again,
you didn't care whether they got permanent financing or not. If they made the airport whole, you're happy.
no, we wanted a building. We wanted a G8 terminal.
Let me rephrase the question. You didn't care if they got financing or not. If they made the airport whole financially, built a building, you're a happy camper.
Yes,
No more questions.
yes.
I said no more questions.
We're done?
I'm done.
Let's take a little break. I might have some follow-up.
We are off the record. The time on the video monitor is 3:59 p.m. We are on the record. The time on the video monitor is 4:04 p.m. This begins disc 2.
Mr. Model, you said a couple of times in your deposition that you couldn't remember what you had for lunch yesterday. Were you trying to be funny when you said that?
I was trying to be funny.
So you were, seriously, you do remember what you had for lunch yesterday?
I had a salad yesterday and today. The same salad at the same restaurant.
Okay, that's all.
Mr. Kirkus, do you have any questions?
None.
I have none more. No more.
We are off the record. The time on the video monitor is 4:05 p.m. This concludes disc 2 and this concludes the deposition.